In the Aspen Gradebook, a blank never counts as a zero. A blank is just a blank in the scores column. So if a student doesn't turn any work in and the column is blank, the student is still not penalized for that. Well, most teachers would prefer to either type in a 0 or they could put in a special code that means it's missing, that the student didn't turn it in. Sometimes parents get confused over whether the student just didn't turn it in or the student was actually given a 0 on an assignment that they did turn in. So it's helpful to have those special codes. So this video will help you to set up your special codes in your gradebook. Once you set up special codes, they are available in every class that you have. You only have to set them up one time. And it's probably a good idea that you have a conversation if you're teaming with other teachers so that the same special codes are being used across all the classes so that parents aren't confused when they log into the portal and see different codes being used for the same purposes. Okay, so on your Tools top tab, you have a Special Codes side tab. And notice that there are no special codes existing, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to add one, and we're going to say Options, Add, and this code is going to be an M standing for missing. Now, if the student didn't turn the work in, I certainly wouldn't want it to be exempt from calculations. So I'm going to click the behavior and say calculate this as a 0. And then I also want this to report as missing. In the earlier video where we set up our preferences, there was a place for you to check report as missing and have the missing column show, and that's exactly what that does. Now, I would also like to change the color of this M so that it stands out a little bit. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to choose the red and say OK. And now my M as missing, if I type it in the gradebook, will calculate as a 0. It will be in red and it will report in the missing column. I'll click Save. So now my gradebook code is saved, and I'm going to now go to Options, Add another one. Now you can't just go in and change the M. You have to actually click Options, Add to get your second one in there. So now this code is going to be an X for exempt, and I don't want that to report as missing, and I'm going to go ahead and make that one green. Maybe you have a student that just moved in, they're a new student, and there's an assignment due the second day they're there, and they haven't had the opportunity to complete that assignment, but you don't want it to count against them. So you can either leave it blank, because again, blanks don't count against a student, or you can put an X for exempt. Click Save, and now you'll notice if I click back on Special Codes, I have an M calculating as a 0 and an X that's exempt from calculations. It's super important for you to understand that there are already codes being used in the gradebook. That's A, B, C, D, U, and F, and E, S, and N. So you can't use those codes as anything, so I certainly couldn't use an A for absent, because that would be like assigning a letter grade of A to a certain score. So make sure you're careful with your codes as far as what you choose. Again, these are super helpful.